At 14, you were blooming flower. War monsters stole you away. You're born in a Korean village in 1925. Congratulations, you've just entered the world as the daughter of poor but loving farmers, on a peninsula that will soon know one of the most systematic horrors of modern warfare. Your childhood will be normal until you turn 14, when you'll discover that being a girl in wartime means being vulnerable in ways you never imagined. Your early years are simple but happy. You help your mother with household chores, play with your siblings in the rice fields, and dream of someday marrying a good man from your village. Life is hard but predictable, filled with the love of a family that works together to survive. In 1910, Japan formally annexes Korea, but the real effects of occupation don't fully reach your rural village until the late 1930s. At first, the changes seem minor. New flags, new uniforms, some Japanese officials who occasionally pass through the village. But gradually, oppression becomes more systematic. You're forced to learn Japanese in school. Your Korean name is replaced with a Japanese one. Korean culture is actively suppressed. Your parents whisper nervously about new policies affecting village families. By the time you turn 14 in 1939, World War II has officially begun, though Japan has been at war in China since 1937. Demands on the Korean peninsula intensify. Young men are being conscripted to work in factories or serve in the Japanese military. One day in 1940, Japanese officials arrive in your village with an offer that seems too good to be true. They're recruiting young girls to work in factories supporting the war effort. They promise good wages, regular food, and the opportunity to serve the empire. For a poor family, it's an opportunity that seems impossible to refuse. Your parents are conflicted. You're young, but the family needs money, and the officials insist it will be safe and honorable. They promise you'll work in a textile factory, live in clean dormitories with other girls, and be able to send money home regularly. What they don't tell you, what no one in your village knows, is that this is part of a massive, coordinated system of deception. The factories are a lie. The good jobs are a facade. You're being recruited for the Japanese military's comfort women system, a euphemism that conceals one of the most extensive sex trafficking operations in modern history. The journey is your first indication that something is terribly wrong. Instead of going to a nearby factory, you're transported far from Korea, across the sea to mainland China. You're with other girls from different villages, all roughly your age, all equally confused and increasingly terrified. When you arrive at your destination, a Japanese military base in occupied Chinese territory, the horrific reality becomes impossible to ignore. This is not a factory. This is what they euphemistically call a comfort station, but which is actually a military brothel where you'll be forced into sexual servitude for Japanese soldiers. Your name is replaced with a number. Your Korean identity is systematically destroyed. You're given a Japanese name and forbidden to speak Korean. If you're caught speaking your native language or mentioning your previous life, you're severely punished. The daily routine is a horror beyond description. From morning until night, you're forced to service soldiers who see you not as a human being, but as an object for their use. There's no escape, no privacy, no dignity. Medical conditions are deliberately ignored. Pregnancy is prevented through dangerous drugs and injections that permanently damage your reproductive system. Sexually transmitted diseases are common, but medical treatment is minimal because your long-term health isn't a concern for your captors. The psychological control is as brutal as the physical. You're constantly told that your family has abandoned you, that you can never return home because No one will accept you after what you've done. They make you believe this is your fault, that you somehow deserved this fate. Other girls at the station come from Korea, China, the Philippines, and other territories occupied by Japan. All have been similarly deceived. Some are even younger than you. You develop bonds with them because they're the only people in the world who understand exactly what you're experiencing. The years blend into a cycle of survival. Some girls attempt escape but are captured and severely punished, serving as warnings to the others. Others become seriously ill or die from the conditions and are simply replaced with new victims. When the war finally ends in 1945, your liberation isn't the joyful reunion you might have imagined. You've been missing for 5 years. You've been traumatized in ways that go beyond understanding. Your family may be dead, displaced, or may not want to associate with you because of the stigma. The journey back to Korea is complicated and dangerous. The country is in chaos, divided between Soviet and American forces. Many comfort women simply can't find their way back to their original families or discover they no longer have a home to return to. If you do manage to return to your village, you face a second victimization from your own society. In traditional 1940s Korea, a woman who has been impure is seen as damaged beyond repair. Instead of compassion for what you suffered, you face shame, rejection, and even blame. Your family may be ashamed to associate with you. Marriage prospects are non-existent. There are no mental health services to help you process the trauma you've experienced. You're expected to simply get over 5 years of systematic abuse and continue with your life as if nothing happened. Many survivors never speak about their experience to anyone. The shame is too deep, the trauma too complex, and society too hostile for understanding. You live the rest of your life carrying this terrible secret, never fully processing what happened to you. For decades, the Japanese government denies the existence of the comfort women system or minimizes its scope. Officially, they were simply prostitutes who chose that work, not victims of forced trafficking. This denial adds insult to injury, making your suffering seem invisible and irrelevant to official history. It's not until the early 1990s that survivors begin speaking publicly about their experiences. Kim Huk-sun becomes the first Korean woman to openly testify about being a comfort woman, breaking decades of silence and shame. Her courage inspires other survivors to come forward, and gradually the full scope of the system becomes clear. It's estimated that up to 200,000 women from Korea, China, the Philippines, and other countries were forced into sexual slavery by the Japanese military. You begin participating in the Wednesday demonstrations outside the Japanese embassy in Seoul, demanding an official apology and compensation from the Japanese government. Every week for over 25 years, survivors and their supporters gather to keep the memory alive and press for justice. But full justice never comes during your lifetime. While Japan has made some statements of regret, it has never provided the full official apology and compensation that survivors have demanded. Governments change, diplomatic priorities shift, but your pain remains unresolved. When you die, decades after the war's end, you carry with you the burden of an injustice that was never fully acknowledged or repaired. Your story becomes part of a collective memory that future generations will work to preserve and honor. Today, comfort women statues in South Korea and elsewhere serve as reminders of what you suffered. These statues aren't just monuments to the past, they're calls to action to ensure such systematic atrocities never happen again. Your story isn't just about a war that ended decades ago. It's about how women and girls continue to be vulnerable to systematic violence during conflicts, and about the importance of believing and supporting survivors when they finally find the strength to speak. It sucked to be born a comfort woman, not because of anything you did, but because you were born female during a time when powerful men decided that girls like you were expendable objects, rather than human beings with rights, dignity, and futures worth protecting. Friends, this story reminds us why we must continue fighting against all forms of gender-based violence and ensure that survivors' voices are heard and honored. Don't forget to subscribe for more important historical content that honors those whose stories must be told.